999 show, and today my special guest is Truth Wave, and this is Victor, and Victor is going to tell us all about his channel and what it is that he does on Truth Wave.
Excellent. Hey, thank you so much for having me, Bill. I was honored to have you request to have me on and tell your audience more about what I do. And they may be meeting me for the very first time right now. And hey, you know what? That's okay because we are all where we're supposed to be at any given time. So that being said, where to start? Where to start with TruthWave. And like I mentioned to you previously, it's going to get a bit woo. It's going to people are going to have to put either take on or put off. No, I'm not going to bring up the tinfoil hats. However, if I think the first thing I need to say to anyone that's listening right now is that from my perspective and from my experience, energy is real. Energy is real. And you and I haven't done an energetic handshake, as I call it, but we should have probably done that a couple of days ago, just so you could experience it. However, I start from the basis in what I do is everything is an energetic exchange. And we can develop something called energetic intuition. And that's something that we practice on every time we gather. Every time we gather on my channel, we have an energetic practice. I send them a thought form, essentially, and say, ask them to connect to my energy. And there'll be three choices to choose from. And I give them that opportunity to feel what they feel. What's the feeling involved? What's the smell? So I send it to them multiple ways. What words are you seeing? And from that, some of the members, some of the viewers, some of the truth wavers, or whatever you want to call them, family. We kind of refer to each other as family because we're pretty tight knit. But then they basically, what's the first thing that comes to them? What's the first thing that of those three symbols that come to them? And you'll find that people will typically get it right after a couple sessions. They'll start to pick it up and realize what they're doing. And something I like to say on Truth Wave is we work on the person and then we work on the planet. So it's like personal and planetary transformation. And we like to expand a person's energetic intuition. And if that doesn't, let me kind of define that. What's a good feeling? It's like walking into a room. This is like the classic. This is the classic energetic intuition. You walk into a room and there's a group of people in there. Maybe it's a meeting, and you can feel the vibe. Oh, they were just arguing in here, or oh, they're having a party in here, or oh, why is everybody being so quiet? Oh, it's sad in here. And that's your energetic intuition picking up the energy of the room. Okay. Because energy is all around us. And we
Yeah.
practice this at Truth Wave as well. We practice what we call Father Sky energy. It's celestial ether energy. That's ether energy that you can charge. It's all around. It's all around you right now. It's all around me. It's all around everyone hanging out. Hey, Lucky Stone, good to see you, Heaney. Sorry, I'm in the habit of doing that. Hershey as well.
Yeah, welcome,
I'm
welcome,
doing your
welcome.
thing, Bill. I apologize. Uh,
No, no, it's I'm learning because like I think you're like the third or the fourth time I've done this style, but even when I've done started having guests on, I am learning how to multitask this where I'm just on with myself. I can track the chat really well. I can paint and do all that stuff and track the chat, but it seems when I add a second person onto here, it's a little bit more challenging. And but then you're talking, and so you can't exactly talk to the people who are there when somebody's talking.
sure.
And
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I get that. Usually I'm not in an interview setting, so I can kind of stop my thought and address somebody, something, some comment in chat. And I get in kind of the space where I just do that.
yeah,
But let's see, where was I? And so in Truthwave, we work on the person and we work about one of the first things we do is cleanse ourselves. We cleanse ourselves of anything that we might have going on that day or at that time. And granted, you may not pick up as much muck and gunk, as I like to say, in the middle of the night from the evening session to the morning session. And I've really gone away too from calling it a meditation as much, because in a sense it is a meditation. By definition, it would be, but it's more of a session. It's more of an energetic session. And uh, I've just recently kind of made that change recently from doing a
mhm,
meditation, from actively calling it a meditation, to more of an energetic session, because what we're doing is we're really you have a whole lot of energy flowing through your body during the meditation, and you're pulling it and you're feeling the energy of the others there as well. And we
Mhm.
even started, well, I started asking people, hey, do you recognize that person's energy to your left and your right? Because we take hands within the meditation. All right.
Yes.
And then so in other words, it's kind of a continual push. It's a continual push. I'm asking people to expand and expand and expand. And I'll tell you what, 1 year, my 1 year anniversary will be July 9th, I think, when I started putting this
Well,
on
I,
YouTube.
I thought what I wanted to hear about since that it looks like you started your channel in June 16th.
Oh,
And
June
so
6th.
and so you're at your 1 year mark just in like 3 days from now. But July something might have been the first video you put up.
That's probably what it was. That's
Yeah.
probably what it is, I should say. So the channel anniversary, yeah, is maybe in 3 days. So I'll probably focus on it being in July because that's really when it started coming out. But I'll
Mhm.
tell you what, on a personal level, the amount of energy, because when I first started, I had two or three people. You know how it goes on YouTube. You had two or three
Yeah.
people joining in. And I did have an original group of people that helped me develop this. I'll get to that in a moment. But like my origin story, in a sense. But now the energy is getting so strong. So many people are waking up. The Truth Wave, the people that come in on Truth Wave are getting so strong, Bill, that it's absolutely
Mhm.
amazing. And even they are feeling it. It's not just me feeling it because I'm kind of
So,
a little bit of the focal point in there
so when I
of
was
the.
building the thumbnail and I was thinking of waves, and I don't really use AI art generators, but very much. But I had, I've been like logging in like for 2 years to this Discord server, and I had like racked up like 2,500 credits. Well, maybe I should start using this. So I took one of my own paintings and I put the image in there to make that because I was thinking of waves, truth waves, and I think what would be what would you like? And then there was the blueness and I'm thinking, well, I was thinking of a welcoming beach and all that. Well, I'm a an ocean. I like this. I have two of these and multiple Hawaiian shirts because I like that that energy of the sea and so
Sure.
forth. But anyways, um, yeah.
Oh, I love the ocean. I love it. I've spent a lot of time. I've been blessed in that regard to be able to spend a lot of time around the ocean in my
Mhm.
in this iteration. Yeah. So, hey, Trista, good to see you.
Yeah.
Janet,
Well.
good to see you too. Lakeside Laura's here as well. All right. Let's get back. Let's jump back to something. Speaking about waves, and one of the coolest things that happened. Let me get back to my origin story. I was watching back in March of 2024, so over a year ago, just over a year. I was watching, had dinner with a friend, and I was watching uh, a guy named Phil, a big conspiracy dude. And my friend was introducing me to this conspiracy stuff. Of course, I've been in some of the conspiracy world, and that's mainly in the UFO, alien abduction, that kind of UFO space. And I wasn't
Yeah.
really into government conspiracies outside of what I would hear here and there. So I was watching this. He started talking about the ether, and he was like, "Yeah, in very soon or in the next couple of years, we'll be able to pull out our phone and we'll be able to access the ether that's all around us." And right when he started talking about that, it was like ching, 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 ching. My brain started just going nuts with this. And he's like, yeah, and soon we'll be able to store our personal data and it to our vibrational frequencies. So it's you don't even have to encrypt it because there's no reason to do it because you can't access my data and I can't access yours no matter how hard I would try, you see.
Yeah.
And
And
so
see,
2 hours later,
I first
two
heard
hours
about
later,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I first heard about stuff like that because I was actually listening to that very truth wave just before coming on here, and you were talking about that. But I first heard about that reading a as Isaac Asimov short story like 20, 30 years ago, and talking about it was like everything going to being like an AI and everything being absorbed into this thing, and pretty soon the whole universe is all into this one unity thing, and so it's just like you are we have the template is out here, and we pull from the template, and it becomes science fiction. And then from science fiction, it becomes reality. And then so it's this huge loop. It comes first from the template form, which we might call spirituality, but maybe that's not the right word for it. Maybe there's a better word for it. But that's the only word we have. That's the only word we have. And so we pull from there, and then it comes into the imagination. And then from the imagination, it becomes computers, it becomes this, it becomes that. And then pretty soon, through our technology, we'll end up being able to replicate in this world what is natural in the other world.
Hmm, that's interesting. I think of it in a similar way. I think I look at it more like anything that, with this fellow talking about accessing via a smartphone app, accessing our ether and our data and things like that. I was thinking about it more, and this just came to me recently. I think it's more like that we can access it, that we can do it without the technology,
Well,
that we
that's
can store the
amazing. That
data. Yeah.
And so, like, I was like trying to write a sci-fi novel. I stopped a while. I don't know why, but it was like in 2006 was the last time I. But in that, I was having all this inspiration that was coming to me. I was thinking, because and it was like, well, it would start with the technology, but then it would move to where you wouldn't need that anymore. And so it would be okay. The cycle is we pull the idea out, and then we put it into the world. That maybe it's first it says as fiction, but or it's as a visionary, and then starts to become worked on and becomes reality. And then let's say the technology does this, and then this next thing is we don't need that technology anymore. We've completely replicated what happens in that other reality.
Hmm. I think I'm following you.
Do you think I'm following there? So it's like different stages of it, and so it's just like that's kind of how I was
Because
saying. I
what?
don't.
Because where are you pulling the idea from? So where's the idea come from? You see,
I think
that would be my question.
I think the idea first comes from what you might call spirit world, or from source consciousness. It comes from a different that greater energy that might exist all around us, whether whatever you might think what that is. And so maybe this technology exists on planet Xeon in the Andromeda galaxy, but through non-local consciousness, you are reaching out, and you don't know that it's from Xeon, but it's there. Or it's like, oh, it's Velcro from Z, it's something, and then the idea comes from there. Or maybe somebody on Xeon gets gets an idea that is something that was like from here, or from somewhere, and then it's just that it's all there's this synergy, this connectedness that exists everywhere, but maybe you don't know where where
Well,
that where that comes from.
energy knows no distance, and remember, Einstein called it spooky action at a distance because what was it, an electron would react. Hey, how was it? Would react to another one or
It's
one of
that
its pairs.
the quantum
And
entanglement. It's that
yeah, there
quantum
you go.
entanglement.
But it would react to it at a distance, and there was some experiment that was done across the United States. They got as far away as they could from one another, and it was still able to receive data or receive an impulse, receive some stimuli that was happening at the other piece of it, something like that. So, and that makes sense to me in that sense. In that sense, it resonates with me. That's a good word for it. Resonates, just like energy resonates. And
Mhm.
on Truthway, we also talk about that energy never lies, and so that's a whole other. That's another route that we can discuss today too, but that energy never lies, and that's your energetic intuition. But also, we talk about how love never dies, and love being one of the nodal energies, and that it's one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Because you think
Mhm.
about an animal you may have had in your lifetime, and that you're not like pining for them any longer because that's part of the grief thing or something like that. And then you get to uh, when you think about it, I think about one of my old cats that I used to have, and your love for them is still there. It may fade a little bit, may not be as strong, but love never dies, and it's amazing to think about the power of love and the different forms of love. I think there's 200 and something defined forms of love. We stick to two. We stick to romantic, and we stick to agape love. Agape love is what people on my channel express to one another every time we gather every 12 hours. And then romantic love is not always a choice because, if you get cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over someone and you're just like besmirched to be smitten, however, whatever you want to say about it, then a lot of times that is not in your power. You see, it's because you're being uh, led or desired or whatever. If you're thinking with your loins or your heart, whatever it is, it's something in there. And it's not always your choice because that kind of
Mhm.
love can make people really stupid and really vengeful.
Well,
So,
that it can, yeah. Yeah.
but but where I was going, let me get a little bit more on this origin thing. So after watching that video, I was laying in bed a couple hours later, and I heard some banging around in my house. And I just received a new cat, the cat that just came to visit me. Spooky is his name. So they were playing grab ass around the house. You know how cats will do and run and bounce off the walls. And I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
up, made sure everyone was all right. I'd laid back down in bed. I was laying on my side, and the next thing I know, I feel pain in the back of my neck, and I hear boom, an enormous boom. But I realize it's in my head, and I feel
Mm.
pain on the back of my neck too. And I was like, "What in the world?" And then I received a vision, and I saw two men, and had like a cloth around their head. They were dark skinned, not African, but dark skinned. I guess Egyptians or something, and they were wearing kind of blankety tunics, and one of them had something in his hand, and they were crafting a block in front of me, and there was
Mm.
a fully manufactured block next to them, and they were crafting. And the message I got was, "This is how it was done. This is how basically in Egypt the blocks were crafted in place, but they were not
Mm.
using a hammer and chisel." And so what I took from that was, wow, so we can do this ourselves. They were using some kind of tool, probably some sound related device or something, some focusing device, not sure. Then I woke up, started contacting my friends, and the really big aspect of that, the next day I started reaching out to all these people. I started reaching out to all my spiritual friends that I met at a conference. There's about 200 and something people to choose from. So I reached out to about 14, 13 of them responded back to me, and I was able to do the energetic handshake with a few of them. And out of those people that I was able to do the handshake with, I think it was 9 or 10 of them. I have the records. Three of them got it right. And what I mean by got it right, I was sending them a thought form. This is how the Truth Wave practice was born. I sent them a thought form. Okay. And they got it right. And I had some of them tell me, one of them even got two of them right. I sent the first one, and she's like, my guides are telling me this. And I was like, okay, let's do it again. And she goes, my guys are telling me there's no way she could see me. And she didn't even really know me that well outside of our spiritual interactions we had at this conference where we met. And then, but each time I would reach out to people, I would feel their energy. Like if I reached
Mm.
out to you right now, if we connected energetically, I would feel your energy. And it kind of comes in on a scale. I've had people's energy wash over me, and actually had a reoccurring guest for about my first 90 shows on Truthwave. She would come in, excuse me, and hold a node very often. Her name was Radiance. She still exists, but people will come, just like with your channel, people will come and anything spiritual, they will come and spend the time they need with you, and then they'll go on. It's like I
Mhm.
used to watch a specific YouTuber, who is it? Elizabeth April. I spent a lot of time. I don't know if you know who she is, but I know a few of your listeners, and my listeners will know who she is. But I used to just absorb everything, everything, everything. And then I kind of diverged from her. And it's nothing against her so much as it is, I think I got what I needed from that experience. And then we go to another, then we find some other experience in which to travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I started reaching out to people, I started asking them, and that's kind of where the truth wave thing came from. We all started sending our symbols to one another offline, like throughout the day. And one of the symbols from one of the participants, CLW, that's their initials, was a wave. And the coolest
Mm,
thing about that wave, and my symbol is a true spiral. And so if you look at my logo, it's a true spiral and a wave. But the coolest
mhm,
thing is, so I went out on my catio, just a deck that's closed in, with screens where the cats hang out. And back in the fall of 2023, I got out the sidewalk chalk. It was a nice day. I just felt like sitting down and just doing some art. And I literally sat down. I have a photo of this, by the way. And I drew three symbols on the concrete. And I didn't put this together until I started doing this energy exchange with this group, my initial group. And the picture is a sun, a true spiral, and a wave underneath it. And
mm,
that's
yeah.
interesting. But that came out, it's not like, was that pre-cog that caused me to, was it pre-cognizance that caused me to make that little picture? No, I just felt like I was just going with the flow and doing what I wanted to do with the
Mm,
sidewalk chalk. So uh, things come to us in various manners. And so I had a core group of people helping me initially once, because I did some meditations. I do a lot of meditation. And I always like to tell people, Bill, is if you want to answer to something, just meditate on it and ask the question. Don't sit and say, "Hey, I wonder what I'm having for dinner." No, be very specific. And so I started asking questions. I started asking about our origin. What's our highest form? What's our
mm,
highest form of being? And so on and so forth. And the thing is, Bill, I started getting the answers. Started getting the answers. And uh, we can go any direction you want, but really, if you want to talk about Truth Wave has had a lot of input in from various people. That's why I refer to myself as the co-founder of it, because really it's for everybody. It's not just for me. I just happen to be the guy that hosts it and that got the message, if you will. So
mm. Yeah. So, yeah, this is kind of like really mind blowing, but kind of not. At the same time, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're speaking things that I kind of feel that are true, even though maybe it's not the first time I've heard them, but you know what I'm saying? It's, yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Mo. Well, it's like this. Let me form it this way, Bill. I can tell you, I've had a UFO sighting. I had a very definitive sighting, and I can tell you the sighting about it 100 times. And if you have not had one, then you're kind of like I want to believe you, and I think it's cool, and I kind of believe you. But until you have that experience, some of these things are just too great for us to wrap our brain housing group around. I'm not saying that's anything to do with your intelligence. Nothing to do with that. It's just that sometimes some things you just have to have that experience. And
So,
that's why I would urge you, come tonight, come tonight and be present and dig in. If you haven't had an energetic experience, you can ask half the people in the chat about it right now, at least people I see in there, and they will tell you, hey, they come in and have this experience. But they're also, our second gift during the show is to be present. And you
mhm,
come in and be present and embrace the energies around you. It may not happen the first time, the second time, the seventh time, but somewhere in your experience, you're going to have an experience. Last year, had a friend come over. We were cooking hot dogs out in the back, or brats or something. And I'd been trying when I first met her. She couldn't feel any energy in her hands. Have you? Have you ever felt energy in your hands?
yeah, I have, and I feel
Okay.
in
Okay.
objects and things like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You can get it. You can pick it up from anything. Everything has like a frequency or something like this. Even
Mhm,
this nice pyramid right here in my hand. And so it was April of last year. I remember distinctly. And I said, "Here, hold out your hands." And I walked up to her and I put my hands over hers. And and I did the old side head. And she goes, "Holy F, this is real." And so there's that light bulb. And it's so nice to be with someone when they have that experience. And that's like the night I had my sighting. I
I
went
had,
from,
I had that, I had that energetic experience like that when I was, I think, 9 years old when I was baptized, and the pastor put because I grew up in a liberal Lutheran church, and I say that because they ordain women, so that's and they're not exclusive, they're inclusive. But nevertheless, and he put his hand on my head, and I felt it all. I felt myself being nailed right down to the core of the earth. You know, and you
Oh,
know, it was
that's
yeah, something like that. It was just like that was when I was like 9. I mean, and maybe I was 11, 9 or 11. It was one of those two. I can't remember exactly. But
so you already know, you already understand that energy is real then. So you've known for a really long time.
yeah, yeah, I have. And then I had like when I was like 17, I had a an OBE vision. So it was like it didn't happen. It was really fast. I was like going to my usual place of where I had my lunch. It was an old a plywood mill that got shut down in the 80s because that because I grew up in and this is a timber area. The main industry in this area is timber. It's not so much anymore, but Oregon and so I grew up in the timber industry. My dad had a lumber mill. I grew up in a lumber mill, but this place had was like the second or the first largest employer in the area that I grew up in. But then in 1980, it got shuttered. And so I would just go hang out there for my lunch break and be alone. I'd go there, smoke cigarettes and drink a cola, have like Coca Cola, So have a lifetime addiction to Coca Cola, but
Mm.
try not to drink it. But anyway, it goes on and off, and but nevertheless. And so while I was in this moment, in between this, and I don't haven't smoked for 2012, but or I've been off of tobacco for since 2012. But I had I was pulled out of my body, and then I was in this place. It was this warm, sort of a warm darkness, but it wasn't dark. It was really weird because it was like it was. I couldn't see anything, but then this explosion of light and all these pieces of light just whipping off of it and coming out. And then it was just kept on coming. And then one of them came over to me and they said, This is you. This was you. This is you. This is me. And it was this
And that was a
piece.
piece of light. It was light. What did it look like?
Well, it just was like a blob of light. It didn't necessarily have any form, but it was, that was that when I was like 17. And then, um, I journeyed to the Holy Lands in '95, but prior
Is
to
that Israel?
yeah, Israel.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then I had more of those types of experiences and things and then anyways, but that's the thing is I there was that sense of or another time that where I had a sort of an out of body thing and I was floating around and I could see me, but that was like during Eucharistic prayers at a Catholic church. And but then there was one after that there was like all kinds of knowledge that came to me and it was like it took like a year for it to all unwind and just in that moment and in some sense I'm still kind of unwinding what happened in that moment and
Well, see, that's your path though, because we're all on different paths of very similar or the same destination.
yeah
That's what I tell people. I tell people on my channel. I say, hey, it's not a competition. If you can't feel a certain thing, or if you're not getting the energy practice or something, it's not a competition because we are all where we're supposed to be. Some people are very strong initially, and then they kind of hit this peak for a bit, and we call it filling our cup. Our cup gets larger, and then we fill it up, and we have higher highs and higher lows. So if you think about it, if we're like on a roller coaster, this low is higher than the low beneath it, and so on and so forth. And sometimes we hit that and we have a period of recalibration and we'll fill that cup up because our cup's getting larger. And some people's cups get larger faster and some of them don't. We're kind of everyone at their own speed. So I'm not out there pushing people, hey, you got to expand, you got to expand. No, we do expand our personal spheres and we do exercise with that. but it's everyone at their own speed, because that
Mhm.
way, you kind of you start getting into spiritual law and energy law and things like that. I try not to stay into that stuff, because if
Mhm.
people just, I'm not forcing people, I'm not really pushing, hey, push, push, push. It's kind of more of a nudge. Hey, expand yourself this way, expand yourself this way, then join me in expanding this way, because we want it to be nice and gentle. And that way it's something that they look forward to feeling, instead of pressure. Oh my God, I've got to be able to feel this. No, we don't want to have anything like that. We want you to be in your natural state. We want you to be comfortable in your expansion.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hmm. So you're
So yeah.
really lucky. You're really
So,
lucky to have had that experience.
so you, when you talked about having a UFO experience, I've had dreams of I don't know that I've actually ever seen a UFO, but I had dreams of from like 20 to like 42. They were more like nightmares, but they're not nightmares anymore, but they were like, okay, here I was. I would see a light up in the sky. Next thing I know, I'm on this slab and there's these creatures that are like standing over you and doing stuff to you. Now, that was just kind of a dream. I would have that. And I just kind of, I didn't know what to make of it. But, I kind of grew up also reading lots of those books. I was very fascinated with Eric von Daniken, or I read Chariots of the Gods when I was.
Yeah.
I read, like Whitley Strieber's Communion, and I read a lot of those books, and then I started getting those dreams, and I stopped reading those books. But now I can go back and study that, and I don't have those nightmares anymore.
Well,
But nevertheless,
it might be worthy of a hypnotic regression, to see if those books, if you were just interpreting them, it's like having bad dreams after you watch something. Is that bridging the gap, or is it just because you watched that piece of material?
I'm
Is
not so sure. But my mother talked about when she was a little girl, and her whole family that was born at that time saw a UFO out off over the Pacific. And then her older brother was in the Air Force and stationed in Labrador, and he saw UFOs all the time on the radar, because that's what he did for his military service and so he was and so he's had multiple encounters. So when a person says they've seen a UFO, or they've had an experience, I don't discount it, because people have all kinds of experiences. And so what I wanted to ask is, how did that experience did how did that in experience affect what you are doing now? Did that
Mhm.
did that did you have any did it have any influence, or did it form you in some such a way that was there a energetic transfer between the those two realities, that maybe was that the genesis of where, because how old were you when you started being and accessing your your empathy and your ability to feel outside of yourself? how
Okay,
how
good question. I've never really thought about if there was a tie-in between what I'm doing now and my experience. But 2016, I've had other experiences throughout my life. Like the first time I ever felt energy, I was probably 15 or 16, Northern Scotland. It's either Northern Scotland or on the Orkney Islands that are right up there. I was in a big stone circle, and I remember walking around and I felt, oh my God, you feel it vibrating. One of my sisters was like, yeah, I do. And the other, my other siblings, my other three siblings and my parents, they were like, what are you talking about? Let's go, let's load back up. And I had the coolest experience. That was like my introduction. And I had multiple things like that happen to me. But 2016, I really kicked it off, because I went out, met up with an old friend of mine, and she was out in Arizona, and she goes, hey, we need to go to Sedona. She was a Reiki master.
Mm.
And so I took my first trip to Arizona in March of 2016, and that is the first time I ever felt energy. Got wiped out, but I was sitting on the couch in this cool room that we had, and I could actually feel energy. But at that time, I had to really focus on it. I had to really sit and quiet myself and reach out, and then that's when I knew it was real. And I would do it. It was like testing it all the time. I remember one time in our kitchen, I ended up moving out there and we lived in North Scottsdale, and I remember she had her back to me. We're standing in the kitchen door. She's kind of walking away from me. And I put up a big block. I just put up a metal block and said, I don't want you in here. She literally stopped in her tracks and turned around, and she had the dumbfounded look on her face. And she goes, what just happened? What the hell just happened? And I was like,
Mm.
oh, nothing. I was just trying something. And told her, I was just putting up a block. And so we were dialed in. And that was kind of like my boot camp in a sense of, of learning things. And also, I had so much stuff. And I think sometimes people bring us experiences because I had so many things happen when she and I were together. And I
Yeah.
guess some people would say that's some kind of karmic is not necessarily a bad relationship, but hey, I even got to see, had my sighting, had saw an orb for the first time in my life in that house. I got to see a dancing coyote, and that
Dancing.
was a dancing coyote. And that's because we were sitting at the dinner table. I was looking out the big windows because in Arizona, they have most of the houses have big windows on them so you can see the beautiful sky.
Mm.
And I'm sitting there, and we had this barrier, like a backyard wall. A lot of the houses had them in this subdivision. And I'm sitting there, and something catches my eye. I see a rabbit fly up in the air and come back down. And then I see it fly up again. I was like, what in the world? You're sitting there, you see a rabbit. And then I notice, then I stand up, and then I see the nuzzle of a coyote throwing this rabbit up and dancing around it and then throwing it up in the air. And then I had to look up the medicine and everything, of course. And I highly suggest, if you ever have any encounters with animals, is look up the medicine. The medicine's out there, the Native American medicine of that.
Well, yeah, I like when I get stressed out, I see my little dog Pee Wee, and it'd be right in the corner of my eyes. Now then I look, the dog's not there, and but I've had that experience like since I was a kid of well, oh, there's somebody there, but they're not there. I really turn around, you don't see them there. There's somebody there out, but they are there. You're just not really recognizing that it's you can't see it physically, but that it's there. Like when my grandmother passed away, she passed away in this house, and I this is the house I grew up in,
Oh,
and
wow.
I grew up in this house, and then I left, and then in 2011 I came back. I was never expected to come back to the area that I grew up in, but that's the way it happened, and then came back, and then 6 months after I came back, my father got killed in a car accident, and then
Oh, man.
then
Sorry.
then that's just it's the way it is. It's but then and so then I'm taking care of my mom, and that's what she's like 85 now, and but nevertheless, but I guess what I was when my grandmother passed away in this house, and she was a big smoker. 1 week after, now it was probably before the funeral, but it may have been after that, but I'm not sure. She came back, and I seen her as like a ball of light, and so she was like hovering between where we kept the matches, and then her purse was still there where her cigarettes were at, and so it was just like going between the matches and the cigarettes, the matches and the cigarettes. And then like after my dad died, and my mom saw him once, and then she said, no, I really don't want to be haunted, so please don't come back, so I'm sure he comes back. But then I saw him wave at me, just the arm, and then and then I lived in a haunted house in McMinnville, Oregon, for several years, I think 6 years. But there was like the bedroom that I was assigned to. I couldn't sleep in there because I would get horrible nightmares. But if I just slept on the couch on the other side of the wall, it was fine. Which is what happened. I ended up not being it. But one time I was in there, and I saw this orb of light moving around, and that's kind of when I got into things like icons, because I put icons all over that room, and that's how I was able to actually sleep in that because I had to put all these religious symbols around there. And I said it because it was the energy of that place was so dark. And it was just so it was just a matter of like wanting to have peace in my life. I've always been a person who liked to have had peace in my life. I don't really like chaos, and chaos really bothers me, and I can't exist in it. It's short. All that energy comes in and it just short circuits everything. And now some people can thrive in the chaos. My father was the type of person who loved the chaos and all of that and all those strong emotions, but I can't do that chaos at all. And but nevertheless, yeah, I'm sorry. But but yeah, I can with that whole thing of these of there are these things that are there, and what exactly are they? Is it a person, or is it maybe something? Because I was like thinking, well, what if it's just like an echo of the person who used to be here, but they're not here anymore. They're gone. They're on, or maybe they're in transition. But maybe it's just that is a echo of it. So it's like or is that
Well, think about it. Think about it. This stone. If you go in and choose this, you ever been in a crystal shop? I always, if I want a specific stone, like if I want a lapis heart, I'll run my hand over the entire bin, and then
yeah,
once I get it, I'll kind of grab a handful and put them down on the table, and then spread them out until I find that one that is resonating with me. And that
yeah.
room, and people may disagree with this, but I'll talk to you about my understanding of it is that room has probably been saturated. The boards and the floor, the walls, everything in that room, whatever furniture's in there. That's like if you bring anything, you go to a secondhand store and buy a chair. Sage the crap out of it. Sage the crap out of it, cleanse it, and imbue it with your energy instead of the energy that arrived with it. Some people even do it before they bring it in the house. And
Yeah.
I like to think of it this way: as I am projecting this energy now. Maybe not 6 8 years ago, 2016, whenever I got on this journey, I was a lot more vulnerable with my energy. Now I just exude it. Now I just you just do it, and you put that energy. I don't even have a sphere. I kind of have this. Well, I guess I have a sphere, but it's like it's no longer just around me. It's way out there now. It's out into the street and all around the houses around me and things like that. Not in an invasive way, but I like to think that if something's going to come and get to me energetically, it's going to have to go through a lot of stuff. It's going to have to work to get to that energy that I'm exuding now. And this is not some kind of, this is not some kind of brag or gloat or anything like that. It's just what I do. I intentionally am putting energy around myself almost all the time. You know who Ron Papil was? Pocket fisherman guy, Ron Papil. He could
Oh,
sell anything. Well, I like to say that you said it and forget it, because when you wake up, when you rise in the sunrise, you get out of bed and you can say, "Hey, I'm going to set myself in peace. I'm going to set myself in love and joy. I'm going to have the best day ever." And what you do is you maintain it. Okay, and then you try to maintain it, keep reaffirming that action throughout your day, and then eventually you get to the point where you set it and you forget it because you're automatically. Well, how long does it take to develop a habit? 21 days, 28 days, 27 days. Over time, you get up and continually do that. You get to that point where you don't even have to think about it anymore. That's an autonomic reaction. Being awake in an awakened state, guess what? You're out there walking around in this state now, and you're not even thinking about it. It's your natural state, and
mhm.
that's a wonderful, a wonderful state to be in,
Yeah.
actually. And I'm also all about. Let's go back to my UFO story. Let's go back to it. We spent months because we'd eat outside in Arizona, because Arizona is awesome in that way. Even in the wintertime, we'd eat outside, clean up our dishes, and we'd use the night sky. Is it Sky Guide or Night Sky? It's one of those apps on the iPad. And so we had all the lights outside turned off, all the house lights turned off, and we'd sit outside and look at the skies. And numerous times we had various sightings. One night we saw like a donut open up in the sky and a dot fly through it. So it's almost like just a pixel, like an old '80s video game that just used pixels. and we saw a sphere, just a ring open up and a dot fly through it, and then the ring collapse. And that was pretty cool, but it wasn't definitive. So on the night of August 16th, 2017, of course, I remember the date, we're sitting outside, and I said to my then partner, I said, I want to see something definitive tonight. I literally said it out loud, spoke it out loud. I want to see something definitive tonight. Shout out to Care Bear, to Clint, to Hershey, to Mo. Who else did I see here? Heaney. Real quick, Bill.
Yeah, I
And
was, you know,
Janet Lee. There we go. And all you
yeah,
lurkers out there, love you. But so I spoke it out loud. I put it out there. I said, I want to see something definitive. And 2 hours later, I was literally, we would call off. I would say, hey, we're gonna, the right side of the house. We were looking towards the house. And this is in North Scottsdale, Arizona. So kind of the darker part of northern Phoenix area, suburb of Phoenix, up by Kid Creek. And Clint as well. There you go. That's who I was trying to remember. Then we were literally, and I said, okay, we'll call that 3 stars. I think it was Alterius or Altair or something like that, this combination of stars. And then immediately right there is when we saw it. Both of us saw it. So I was literally had to move my eyes like that far. So I was right where I needed to be. I was looking in the right direction. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch it on video or anything.
yeah, yeah.
But
That's the. Sorry.
But no, it's all right. But the thing is, I saw detail on it. So it was rounded on the front, and then it had almost a Batman, like a teardrop on the back, and there were 2 big discs on it, almost like, I don't know what they could be, but but the thing is, the thing was enormous, and it was in orbit. And then I saw it with streamers around it. You know how the USS Enterprise, I don't know if you've ever watched Star Trek, but you know
Oh,
how the Enterprise goes to warp?
yeah,
The
yeah.
and you see these streamers was very, so this thing was either coming or going, because maybe their cloaking technology or whatever it is doesn't work during that time, so it was either coming or going. I got more of the impression that it was leaving. So it was leaving
Mm,
orbit, and it was about 3/4 the size of the moon, and I saw it for the length of my finger. But up in orbit, it was enormous. So I got my definitive sighting, and I said to
mm,
her, I said, did you see that? And she goes, I saw it. And I went in and wrote all the details down, because I was a former MUFON trainee at one time many years ago, so I knew, hey, document my experience. And uh, after that, it was so cool, because I went from being a believer to a knower. And the
mm,
really cool thing that I thought about it energetically, and whatever was on that craft was not alien. It was human. The impression I got was that it was human. And
mm,
that's the thing, and that's the thing we talk about on Truthwave. Circling back to Truthwave, we talk about the energetic intuition. Our energetic intuition, you grow your energetic ability, your intuition is going to grow with it. It's like if you go and talk to a used car salesman. There's a good example. Hey, Witchy Trista, good to see you as well. Awesome. Hammond is
like,
here as well. Oh, the whole crew is showing up. Sweet.
yeah.
But you talk to anyone, and you can develop the ability to know a universal truth just by them
Mm,
speaking. And they don't have to be saying yes or no or anything like that. That's why I tell people, hey, anything you hear, if you hear some piece of news anywhere, Mr. Mission, good to see you. If you hear any piece of news, then what are you feeling from it? What is it? Is it trying to make you feel, if you're feeling pissed off at some other group of people that don't agree with you, or somebody that doesn't look like you or something like that? If you're getting an emotional response from whatever you're watching, you need to turn it off, because it's
yeah.
trying to manipulate you. It is 100% trying to, unless it's, of course, it's kittens, kittens or dogs or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
If it's,
yeah.
or a field of flowers and some flowy woman is walking through this field of flowers, yeah, that's going to elicit a response. Or some monk is sitting there and kittens playing around that monk, something like that. And that is not, I'm talking more like bad news. But uh, I think it all comes down, well, it's getting ahead of myself there. So I ask people to be very mindful of what they put in their minds. Mind your mind, because you sit there
Mm,
and expose it to this stuff that is trying to, I know the LA riots. I know there's riots going on across the country, but guess what? I'm not going to give it any energy. I'll send it some calm, like we did a couple days ago. We sent 3 hours and 33 minutes and 36 seconds. I was trying to do 3 seconds, but I couldn't get the timing right. But we sent 3 hours and 33 minutes of calming energy to LA,
Yeah.
and can we measure that? Can we measure that? Well, no. But the thing is we know we put our effort out there, and knowing that is so important. Every time we send out a pulse on Truth Wave, we're helping thousands and thousands of people. Well, how do you measure that, Victor? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm saying that's what I feel. That's what I felt. 1,000 people just receive that. They're making that conscious effort to change their life, to embrace love, to embrace peace and unity.
Hmm.
And one person, one candle, let's say it that way. One candle can light 1,000, and those 1,000 can light 1,000, and so on and so forth. And you just extrapolate out, because anything you and I could sit and talk about a beautiful planet, a planet of peace, and this and that is putting a positive vibration. That simple. It is that easy to raise the vibration out there.
Well,
And
just to talk about just to on the same level is there was a monastery that I used to go to all the time after I and and I would drive onto the property, and if I was on the highway, it was chaos, but as soon as I crossed over the driveway onto their property, a wave of peace just came over. And so these monks sitting there praying, they had their morning prayers and their evening prayers, and then in the afternoon they have their silent contemplative prayers, that they change the energy around that their entire property. So if you went on a hike over there and you just step 1 foot off of their property, all that peace disappeared, but you step back on and it's noticeable. And so it's like when I was in Israel, and you touch those walls, and those walls were, there was an energy that was there, but then it made me think about, well, maybe what would happen, maybe this Jesus guy never really existed, but because people pretended as they did. They treated it as they did, and they treated this land like it was this holy land that for 1,000 years or 1,500 years or however long, all of that energy, all those intentions into those stones, into those rocks, it
makes a
changed
difference.
it changed the space. And so it doesn't matter if the guy was real or not. And they with the Gnostics, they would say, I think it was like Richard Carrier, who's he's like a anyway, he's he said, well, his belief was that the very first introduction of Jesus into this world was a vision in somebody's head,
Hmm.
and then it was all, and that was, but he's also an atheist. But I'm not really getting on to talking about this, but I'm just talking about this as an example, is that we can create these things, and they may not actually have any historical truth, they may not have any historical reality at all, but through our power of intention, we make this stuff real. And that's
You have
that.
a do you have a necklace on?
I do not.
Okay. See, I do. It's like
Yeah.
anything. Some people wear crucifixes, some people wear ankhs, some people wear this or that. We could right now, you and I, with everyone in chat, we could make this awesome sphere that I received from our friend Chloe. I don't know if you know Chloe, but Chloe's crystals. But the thing is, we could make this a fetish, meaning, and not fetish in the sense of something sexual, but fetish in something that holds power and meaning to us. Like my truth wave, my spiral and wave necklace I have here, it is
Mhm.
very important to me. I love it. All right. But so what I've done is I've imbued power upon it because it is dear to me. All right.
Mhm.
And so to your point, we could make this sphere. We could all say, oh, this is the great sphere of the unknown that does this and this and this for us. And if we were put our intention and energy into it for so long, then guess what? Then all of a sudden, I don't know if it's a cult or what, it could become a very important icon for all of us as
Yeah.
time goes on. Uh-oh,
Yeah.
somebody's got the zoomies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally agree. And back to your monks could be intentionally just pushing their energy out to the edge of their edge of their field or whatever it is, or it just happens to be that how much energy they're pushing out. They could be doing it intentionally or not. It's just their natural field because they're sitting there putting positivity and positivity and positivity into that field
Mhm.
all around them all the time. Because as
Yeah.
you know, we already discussed 55 minutes ago that energy is real.
Yes.
So why
No.
not put the energy? Why not charge the energy around you in the way that you want, in the way that you want to feel? You already know it's real, so just charge it. If you want to charge it with joy, charge it with joy. If you want to charge it with love, charge it with love. If you uh, back to my original example with the fellow talking about the phone, Phil was talking about having an app where you could store data. All right. Well, why not have something that you could say, well, hey, make my ambient temperature 78 degrees, and I would like a slight breeze, and I want it to be uh, 55% THC for 3 minutes unless I fall over first. And then after that, take it away. You could make it anything that you wanted to do, any kind of effect, or you could make it cool in there, make it 65 degrees, create a fire. I hope it's coming. I think it's awesome because we're already getting to the point where we're charging the energy around us. Like the energy we send out
Mhm.
to the planet, and we do what 6 pulses a day in 24 hours. It's 6 pulses, 6 pulses. Good to see you, Christine. Thank you for coming by. But it's
Yeah.
it's very consistent, and we've been sending out energy, Bill. We've been doing this since October 21st, twice a day,
Mm.
every 12 hours, consistently.
So yeah, so I was like thinking about that, and I was like, wow. To me, I found that you are doing that twice a day to be really impressive. And I think, how has this guy got this energy to do that? I mean, um, I know how much energy it takes to do this, and
I can talk about that because whenever I decided to go twice a day, first couple weeks it was tough. It was really hard. Well, I shouldn't say that sounds a little bit harsh, but it was just I even doubted. I was like, can I really do this? Can I really do this? But I just kept going, and I followed my own advice. I pull on Father Sky. You can do it right now. You can pull on that Father Sky. Everyone in chat, you can pull on that Father Sky energy. It's a celestial ether energy. It's around us right now. Do you exercise? If you exercise any, pull on that energy and just pull it in with intention to give you some energy to work out or
mm,
specific energy to perform a specific task. If you're feeling scattered, reach out to Mother Gaia. That's grounded energy. It's all around you. It's right there for you to utilize. Or if you're feeling lonely or alone, reach out to the unity consciousness right there. And we interact, we utilize these energies every time we gather at Truth Wave, every time. Every 12 hours, we're going out there and we're interacting with these energies. And guess what? Everybody leaves fully energized and with the knowledge to know how to utilize this. And do they practice it all the time? I hear reports from various people here and there. Yeah. Oh, I'm doing this today, or I'll receive a message. Hey, I really pulled on Father Sky. I was I was feeling down or something like that. And so I pulled on this specific energy. It's all right out there all you have to do is reach out to it. And it's unlimited. That's the great thing about it. It is right there for you to pull in. There's something
mm,
else too. Don't even get me started on time. If you want to have a quick discussion about time, we're getting almost to an hour here. So uh,
yeah.
the I was doing some experiments with a group. We called it the Vault, and it was just our initials made up the Vault. The people in the group, and we got to the point where anytime we would gather, because our time would seem to just go so fast every time we would get together. And it was usually after my sunset session, we would get together for a couple hours, sometimes 2 or 3, 4 hours. Sometimes we'd talk all night. And we're out there doing this, having discussions, going out there and exploring the bounds of everything of the universe and beyond. And um, what we would do, we got before our group dissolved, every time we would gather, somebody would say, okay, let's stop time. Let's slow down time. And we would
Mm,
slow it down. And essentially it would seem like an hour would pass on the clock, but it would feel like 3 hours of time.
oh,
Yeah, it's a cool sensation. Really cool
hmm,
sensation. And some
you
other
know,
groups out there right now are saying that time is speeding up and slowing down multiple times throughout the day now too. And
mhm.
that's another interesting thing. to think about. And I thought, see, that really resonated with me when I heard that yesterday, that time is speeding up and slowing down, even within the same day. That really resonates because I kind of noticed it. Like even my session from earlier today, I even mentioned something. I was like, where'd all the time go? It really went fast. But in a sense, I'm channeling in a sense. I get in this state when I start doing the meditation, and I have no idea what's going on in my chat or anything like that. Uh, Occasionally, I might take a peek at the clock to see where I am time wise. But today I looked at it and, dude, that was surprised me. It really surprised me. And then see, that's an
Mm.
experience in itself.
Yeah. Well, when you're thinking about that, I was thinking about like when I lived up in Seattle, and I love living up there in Seattle. I was right downtown, and having been a rural person, to go to a big city like that, maybe it's not that big of a city. You know, if you're in what, Chicago,
No,
or
I'm in Chicago time zone.
you're Chicago time zone, so you're not. Oh, that's right. You said in Oklahoma,
I'm
but
in Tulsa. In
yeah,
Tulsa.
and so. But you know, you know that Seattle is probably the, well, outside of San Francisco, Seattle is the biggest city I've been in. But I lived there for 8 years. But would host these writers circles, and we'd get together, two, three of us, once a week, and we would go into a location, and we want to write. We get a prompt, and we'll write for as much as we can for 10 minutes or 15
Oh yeah,
minutes,
I've heard of
and
this exercise. Yeah.
do stuff like this. But then after a while, I started to notice that, let's say, there's always another person that was there. And when we were together, let's say it would be like that other person was enhancing our creativity. When we wrote together, we would write different things. Sometimes that we would be writing the same thing. You know, a lot of the elements were the same. Maybe sometimes it was two people or three people or six people. But if it was like two people, it was like there was three people. If it was like six
Hmm,
people, it was like there was seven people. But it was like this extra entity was there, but that was our collective was that extra entity that was there,
sure.
the combinedness. But then it was our creativity was enhanced when we wrote together, and that was like just an amazing experience. And I almost had forgotten
Wow.
about that until you and so
Well, I'm
yeah.
glad to bring that up. It'll be something worthy of discussion. And also, I'm going to have to go because I
Yeah.
can only do an hour, unfortunately, tonight, and because I've got everything else planned between it and my show. So I do
Well,
appreciate you inviting me on, Bill.
you can always come back on another time, and we can talk some more about this stuff, because it looks like we probably could talk for hours and hours and hours about this stuff.
Oh, dude. Yeah, yeah. We definitely have that ability. We definitely have that ability.
Yeah.
I want to thank all the
So,
truth wavers that came over too
yeah.
for coming by. And I want to
Anyway,
say hello to all of your
yes,
people. Hello.
welcome,
Thank
Mo.
you.
Welcome, Julianne. Welcome, Carabelle. Thank you for being on here, and thank you, Hershey, and thank you, Christine. And then there's all the Mr. Mission Control, and then there was that one guy, something 888 guy.
Lucky. Yeah, that's lucky.
Yeah, yeah, because I always like watching some of his videos, and it looked like he's like using a drone to flying above him to film him while he's out out
Hey,
in it.
he's a neat guy. He's a neat guy. He'd
Yeah,
be worthy of coming on your show. He's
yeah,
super intellectual about. He does these deep dives, dude. He does these deep dives and various esoteric things and some history of the way things are. Very well. I'm going to go into a rabbit hole if I start talking about that. But yeah, you
yeah,
need to have Lucky's
yeah.
really cool. Hey, Beth Maven, good to see you. There's Lucky right there. There
Yeah.
you go.
The other thing that I wanted to mention before I forgot it was when I was up in Seattle. One of the thing was is I used to do contra dance, and contra dancing is the predecessor to square dancing. It's a color based form, and so, but nevertheless, you would be in this big dance hall like once a year at Folk Life, which is over the September holiday, the one that's the 4-day weekend at the end of the summer.
You're talking about
That
a witchy holiday? A witchy holiday?
well, no, there's there. Oh, Labor Day weekend, the Labor
Oh,
Day weekend. And so there was a 4-day festival called Folk Life. But then we'd go into this big giant dance hall and would be lined up in lines, and and there would always be like one per festival where you would do a 45-minute long dance with somebody, and you would be going progressing up and down, and then but you would be after about 10 the caller would quit calling the dance, and everybody would go into this I would go into this flow state where time would just it would
hmm.
stop, and then you were doing, and then it was just in this one state of being, and it was like, for me, that kind of a dance was like this sort of a healing kind of a thing, because it rooted you right into the here and now. And then what wasn't present was your anxieties about the job or this or that or your life. All those things, your broken heart or whatever you were going through, you would be, for me anyway, I don't know if anybody else had that experience, but for me, I would have that experience that all of that part of my life, all those things would just vanish, and I would just be right here doing this thing with about 500 other people.
Hmm. That sounds like a really cool experience, actually.
But anyways, that was I wanted to talk about that just before I let you go, because I almost forgot all about it, because in talking to you, it kind of all came back into my head. And but
Uh,
yeah,
everything is always an exchange, man. It's always an exchange.
yeah,
Any energetic thing. That's why we spoke about that. Somebody put it in the chat at my sunrise session, or maybe it was in someone else's chat. I don't know. I spent a lot of time visiting with other people in our community. That it's always an exchange. If you have, you see the student and then the master, and that master is learning just as much from that student. And sometimes that comes in reminders, which is
yeah,
beautiful, because that master is like, oh, hey, I'm teaching the student this, this, and this, and oh, that's something I've forgotten about. It's really fun. I love energy is always an exchange. Knowledge is always an exchange. It's
yeah.
beautiful. But hey, Bill, I really appreciate it. Thank you
All
so
right,
much for having me on.
you're welcome. And yeah, yeah. Thank you
Uh,
very much. And I really hope that you can come back on sometime again in the future, and we can talk some more about the woo stuff, because that's actually the fun stuff.
oh yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I've got plenty of woo in my body.
All right.
All
Well, then I
right,
want to thank everyone out for supporting us for this hour, and we would have a blessed weekend and rest of your day. And next Friday at this same time that we started, I'm going to have Hershey on,
Ooh,
and
nice.
then
Yeah, Hershey's awesome.
next Saturday in the afternoon, I'm having another paint off. So I'm having some Christine from the East Coast, and we're going to both do some painting. And I haven't done a paint off for a while. And then on Sunday, I have Alexis Milner, and we're going to be talking about some stuff Sunday afternoon. And
All right,
then
come by in an hour and 45 minutes, man.
I will try. I'm going to be cooking dinner for my little dog and my mom here soon, and so,
What are
but
you
I will
cooking?
try. And what was that?
What are you cooking?
I'm cooking for what I'm cooking for stuff that the dog likes.
Okay. All
I
right.
I
Well,
cook
we can leave it there. We can leave it there, man.
I cook for the dog, and my dog little dog has no teeth, and so I have to. And she's very particular. Just a little tiny black long haired Chihuahua. And
Nice.
anyway, that's
All right,
all.
brother.
Thank you very much. And thank you,
Okay.
everyone, for being here.
All right. Namaste, everyone. Love you all.
We'll see you
Be
later.
good, y'all.
Bye bye.